But tonight, it is the finale of season 1 of Songland with OneRepublic. And Ryan Tedder, as the frontman of the band, has left his chair as a resident producer, writer, and has moved over to be the guest artist. And what's fascinating about this is it's the first time that OneRepublic has taken a song from an outside writer. And further, for winning songwriter JT Roach, it's incredibly fitting. He studied songwriting by studying Ryan Tedder. But before we hear from JT, let's hear from Ryan and OneRepublic guitar player Zach Filkins.
I wanted to be a part of this because it is kind of breaking boundaries, especially for us. So because, once I heard that we were doing an episode, it really, it made sense to kind of break the boundary that we have as a band, which is really kind of a shutdown. Like, we're only doing songs in-house. Like, we're not gonna break that rule. And why not? I mean, we started off with a huge rule break, so why not try it out and see what can happen from it.
3 or 4 years ago, the idea of this show got brought to my attention by one of the producers from The Voice that I'd known, Adam Levine. I had a long conversation with him talking about TV and complaining about how much travel I do promoting songs. You're traveling all around the world nonstop. And he kind of put the bug in my ear at that time. He said, if you ever wanted to do TV, I think you'd be good at it. And if you find the right show or the right thing involving music, it also cuts down a lot on having to go around and promoting. So selfishly, I was like, oh my God, if I could do television, if I'm doing something that's authentic to who I am, talking about music every single day and writing songs, then it was just a natural assortment of things that I like to do. And I'm really bad at doing things that aren't fun or don't interest me. I'm a horrible faker and I lose interest like that fast. So for me, this has been incredible and a blessing because it is really just what I do on a daily basis, just put to camera. Now, this is like a really cool experiment. We've never taken an outside song. As far as the writing community is concerned, they know that we don't take outside songs. So for us, this is just a new, we've been together 12 years now. This is like, why not? Like, we have nothing to protect or hide. Like, we're not being precious at this point. So we're writing for a new album. The timing couldn't be better. It just kind of made sense. All of it made sense. I wouldn't be doing this if we weren't making an album and it didn't line up with what we were doing, but it works for where we're at right now. And being in the producer panel versus being in the chair is completely different. Although I would say my reaction to the songs is the same. Pretty much is how I'd react if I was on the producer panel. I think maybe I leaned back a little bit more than I normally would. I'm chomping at the bit, like with, here's the idea and here's what we should do. I really wanted Esther and Jason and Shane to get their ideas across first. But other than that, it felt similar. The only difference is I'm going, oh, wait a minute. I don't have to go back to my studio and scramble to finish this song right now. I've got 3 people doing the work for me, so that's kind of nice. I can't answer what kind of song OneRepublic is looking for ever. I've never been able to answer that. Every album has come out of a need to say something. I need to get this off my chest. I know what I want to say. Bursts of energy, bursts of ideas, bursts of thought. It's never overthought. Our best songs are not overthought or arduous. And furthermore, I never know what the next OneRepublic single or hit or album is going to sound like until I hear it. There's nothing the hardest part about being this band is with so many other bands where they clearly know this is our narrative, this is our style that we're doing, this is what we're doing. We never had that. I'm not chasing one specific, I'm not constantly trying to be the new version of The Police or the new version, this generation's fill in the blank. And what makes it worse for us is I am abhorrently against putting out a hit song just for the sake of having a hit. And that sounds so defeating and I would say it almost sounds fake self-deprecating or something. But there's a lot of hit records that have come across my path in writing for other artists and crafting stuff for other artists in the last 2 years. There's been songs that I could have featured on as a singer or this band that we haven't jumped on because the moment we put out a record that's a hit for the sake of having a hit, like that feeling is such a sinking feeling to me. And I know a lot of artists do it, and part of the game is having hits. But for me, putting a song out just because I know it's a hit, it's like I can see myself in a car somewhere calling bullshit on myself. And I can't deal with that. And I wish I could turn that chip off sometimes and just be like, oh, that feels like a hit record, let's put it out. I have to have such a very specific, profound feeling for me to believe in a OneRepublic single enough to be like, I think this is a hit, let's go. And it only comes around a couple times every few years, sadly, but I'm in that frame of mind now. So I'm ready. I don't know what OneRepublic is ever looking for. I only know it when I hear it.
My name is JT Roach. I'm from Madison, Wisconsin. I've been based in Los Angeles for the last 5 years. I wrote Somebody to Love, the song that won the OneRepublic episode of Songland. My family definitely raised me with a love of music. You know, a lot of car rides with my dad, just blasting Beatles music, and I grew up Catholic, so a lot of music in church. By the time I got into college, I was kind of the guy who would do YouTube covers of like my favorite Drake and Miguel songs, and I remember a song I did getting like 50,000 views in like a few days, and I was like, oh, so like, okay, people will listen to this if I put some time into it. I would say the real incubation period of when I committed fully to writing songs was in the first 2 years that I was living in LA, and that was all I was doing, and everything was for the goal of being a professional songwriter and making a living off of my craft. The first 6 months I lived in Sherman Oaks, ran out of money, and my friends let me crash on their couch in Silver Lake. And what I did was I stayed in that house for 2 years, slept on a twin mattress in their hallway, and wrote demos out of one of the closets in the house, probably about 300 to 400 demos in a couple of years. Somebody to Love I did in a session with one co-writer and two producers. Andrew Wells was one of the co-producers. The other co-producer was a guy named Jinte, and my co-writer, who was more top-line oriented, lyric, melody oriented, a guy named Kevin Fisher. And Andrew started on the guitar. He's an amazing guitarist. Started vibing on the chords, and we were like, oh, that feels like a good vibe for today. That feels like the mood that we're in. And we just kind of built from that. So the whole song was built out of these guitar shapes where you're really only plucking two notes of the chord, and these four beautiful chords happened. They were doing that just as a jumping off point for us to start the song. In this case, the vibe was just really strong right away. He and Jen started building the beat. You know it's a strong vibe when you automatically start getting melodies and lyric ideas, and everybody gets excited in the room because you can feel the emotion from the song. Kevin and I started vibing on the melody for the chorus. And I knew that we needed a really percussive lyric at the end of that because that cadence is super fast. So we tried several different concepts, and the one that we kept coming back to that felt like the entire mood of the song was somebody to love, somebody to love. As soon as we heard Somebody to Love with that melody, it was an automatic hook. It just rolls off the tongue. We started with that chorus, and I said, guys, do you mind if I just jump in the booth really quick? And I went back in the booth and I sang the descending falsetto melody. My co-writer had just gone through a breakup. You know, talking to him about that jogs up all my memories for breakups that I've had. We talked about how much he was afraid to see her out. And I know I've been in that situation where I went out and I saw an ex-girlfriend, and you know, you kind of play through that in your head, what's gonna happen when you see them. And I remember walking past my ex-girlfriend, and she just walked straight past me and acted like she didn't even see me, and like how much that sucked. You know, it's just a really heavy moment. The first original lyrics were, you say it doesn't feel the same. I know who to blame. I'm the one to blame. I know how you got away. I let you get away. Let you get away.
You say it doesn't feel the same. I know who to blame. I'm the one to blame. I know how you got away. I let you get away. Let you get away.
At that moment, I felt like it was my fault for letting that girl get away. essentially beating yourself up about it. Like, why did I let this person out of my life? I should have like fought for them. And now it's clear that this person has moved on, and just how difficult it is to confront that when you're not over somebody.
And it kills me to know that you found somebody to love, somebody to love.
And this was the song that got me onto the show, NBC Songland, on the OneRepublic episode. I did know about Ryan, Shane, and Esther before the show, and Jason Evigan as well. He was the guest producer on our episode. They're all amazing. Shane, they call him the wordsmith because he's just so insane with lyrics. Esther's like melodies and cadences and like style is incredible. And then Jason is obviously an incredible producer and writer. He's got a hot record right now with Girls Like You by Maroon 5 and Good Things Fall Apart with John Bellion and Illenium. So I've definitely studied their work. Ryan in particular, I remember when I first moved out to Los Angeles and living in that hallway and working out of a closet, I pulled up the song Counting Stars by OneRepublic, and I brought it into a Logic session, and I chopped it all up and colorized every single section and learned why certain things happened in certain sections. Like, why do you skip the kicks here? Why do you put the snares in there? Why does he do this vocal run here? And I remember asking all those questions, and that's how you learn from the best. And it's so crazy to me that I went through that and then end up on this show on his episode. It's very dreamlike to walk through the door and to just see this massive production set and then 4 of these people who, you imagine the moment and then you're in it, and it just feels very, very surreal. There was definitely some additional hype to this episode because Ryan is usually a super producer / kind of judge on the show. And on this one, he's the actual artist. I felt like he was going to be even harder and even harsher with his criticisms. I remember being very nervous for sure. I kept trying to use the word excited so that I could, do what I had to do. The first reactions were that they loved the chorus. That was what anchored the whole song to me. So I was so thrilled that they loved the chorus, because even before I performed it, they're like, "What's your favorite part of the song?" And I was like, "It's the chorus." And I think the bar got set kind of high by me saying that. So I was like, I hope my chorus is as good as I think it is. So I was really glad that they liked it. And then the verse, I know that they pretty unanimously wanted it to be stronger lyrically, and just the cadence wise, they were all kind of lost. They were like, can we hear this again? Like, what's going on with this verse? It's kind of like an urban flow, but it's also not clearly defined what's going on. These lyrics are too general. They're not pulling us into the story because it's very clear you're not giving us details that pull us into this setting. I know Shane was very adamant about that. He's a top writer in Nashville, and they're so good at pulling people into stories and verses. I thought they were going to tell me at the end of the first round which producer that I was going to get paired with, so I thought I was going to find out in that moment. So they were like, "Oh, you're going to find out right when you walk in the room." And I was like, "Oh, I got to find out in that moment." So I got to mentally prepare for whoever is going to be in that room. I was thrilled that it was Shane, because I knew in that moment that he was going to help me get these verses where they needed to be, because he's such a lyricist. So I was really stoked when he was behind the door. I feel like Shane really pushed me to talk about what the story was actually about and to make it personal to me. So Shane basically asked me, like, what moment are you in when you're thinking of this song? To me, this is about when I saw my ex-girlfriend when I was out at a bar, and she walked right past me and didn't say anything to me to hurt me, and how much that sucked. And that's really what the song is to me, is a brutal moment. He wanted to dig into how to tell the story in the verses and how to say specific things that brought people into the story, because the original verse lyrics were too general and they weren't bringing people into the story.
Lyrically, I think it could be honed, and we talked about that.
Yeah, the true story.
Because that's where we're going to get the verse color.
Yeah.
We nail that in the verse, you cannot poke holes in this song.
So the new verse lyrics: "Never could imagine the way the story happened. You with someone new. Used to be your focus. Now you don't even notice when I leave the room." So to me, it was like how painful it is that the person doesn't even care that you're in the room anymore. The new pre-chorus was really what sealed it with, "You're not even trying to make me jealous, but you can't help it." It's almost like it's the moment when the person is so over you that they don't even care how you react, and how brutal it can be when you want them to get upset, when you see them and you want them to be upset that they're running into you or whatever it is, but they're actually legitimately over you, and how much more that sucks than them getting worked up and showing that they care. Ryan also had some input on the lyrics and what he wanted. I know he wanted the angle to be something that he could relate to personally, and he went through something recently with his family where one person moved on from another person, and he could really relate to the song in that way. So we really tried to craft it and create it into a story for him that when he sings it live, he can really feel it and relate to it. So the second performance, I was really just focused on performing it correctly, honestly. And I originally was going to do it on guitar and sing, but I was having trouble connecting to it emotionally because I was trying to perform it correctly. We had changed the lyrics so much, so I felt like I was trying to get it right as opposed to trying to connect with it. And I remember Shane being like, if we're going to do this right, you need to connect with it emotionally. So we ditched the guitar and they brought in a cello player. And I came out and just tried to focus on singing it and tried to put myself in that moment. I figured if I could really connect with it and feel the song, then everybody else would. The second time, the reactions were amazing. I remember Ryan saying that this felt like a song that has always existed. We really leaned into the emotion of the song and accentuated it, and I feel like it paid off by having these new verses and this new pre-chorus lyric because it made the chorus feel that much heavier. I tried to just focus on doing the best that I could in my performances. That's all you can really control. I just tried to pour my heart into the songs and do everything the best that I could and let the chips fall where they may.
So the song that knocked me off my feet, I had one melody circling around in my head over and over again. And it kills me to know that you found somebody to love.
I could feel my heart beating out of my chest, and I felt like Ryan was definitely messing with us and like dragging the moment out because he knew we were nervous. My heart skipped a beat, and I think I teared up and just like kind of covered my face. But just incredible moment, once in a lifetime thing. It was all very, very surreal. Really, honestly, it's just such an honor to be a part of this show, and it was such a blast. Like, how many people can say that they did something like this in their lives? So I had so much fun, and I'm obviously honored that I won and that he chose my song and that OneRepublic chose my song. It's still hard to believe that it happened.
Somebody to Love we picked because it feels timeless. It is painful. It is a raw nerve. It is simple. It is all out front. It's not too heady. The melody reminds me of something I'd hear the Police or Sting doing back in the day as well, which I love. And it suits my vocal range perfectly. It is a magical song.